Hi everyone, it's Travis, the Pagan Scholar. This video is going to be a tag video. I've seen a couple of the people that I watch on YouTube do this tag. This is the 10 questions every tarot card reader must answer. My practice has been leaning more and more towards tarot recently, and I thought that this would be a great way to introduce you into my ideas on tarot. I have been making tarot and poetry videos for a while. I have been reading tarot cards for a long time, but I read them in a very personal gnosis kind of way, so maybe this will help clear the air on my opinion on the miraculous phenomenon that we call tarot. Before I get started, I did get this idea from Katie Flowers and from Angelo. I don't know how to say your last name, I'm so sorry, but I'll link both of their channels in the description below. Wonderful content, and I respect them as tarot readers, so go check out their videos as well. The very first question is, were you mentored or were you self-taught? I guess you could say both. I had this deck and I was at a youth Christmas party, and I was trying to learn how to read tarot. I was reading tarot for my friends, but it was draw a card, read the little white pamphlet, draw a card, read the little white pamphlet. And one of the youth leaders, it was a couple, she came over, she saw that I was reading tarot cards, and she said, "Would you like me to teach you how to do that?" It was a very unique, interesting Christian youth group. It was specifically Christian, but both the youth leader and the youth leader's wife came from very magical backgrounds. You could describe them as being Christian mystics, and they recognize the divine feminine in all things, and as well as the masculine. She knew how to read tarot cards, so it was a spiritual youth group. It was not just Christian, but it was very heavily Christian, but there was also other things going on in it. So basically, she taught me how to read by looking at the cards, and she was like, she drew a card, she said, "Describe this picture." I described what I saw, and she said, "All right, so the next time you draw that card, that's what you talk about. That's what is going on in the tarot card reading. You don't have to memorize a bunch of things, it's just intuitive like that." So I took that, and then I kept in mind other interpretations, but the problem is that while that technique is good for new tarot card readers, there is a problem in that the deck's styles usually vary from deck to deck. So there is the general theme. I mean, you could branch into the two different schools of the Thoth deck and the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about from deck to deck, there are specific and different interpretations of the card. So for example, the deck that I learned on, the Witchy Tarot deck, this is the 8 of Swords, which they are calling broomsticks, but that is kind of different than your standard 8 of Swords here. This is 8, right? Yeah, okay. So those are different things going on in the card. So it does create a very specific reading genre, reading style, using the very specific deck that you're using. So anyways, from that, this is a very long-winded first answer. I'm going to make the others much more concise, but yeah, I was taught how to read, and then I was set loose, and from there I've actually now started returning to the traditional tarot card interpretations of how to go about that. Question 2 is, are you a psychic or are you a tarot card reader? I am a tarot card reader. I make no psychic claims. I don't have that gift, if I'm going to speak bluntly about that. I am empathetic towards many people and many situations, but I do not claim any clairvoyance or any sort of gift like that. So because I am not a psychic, that means that I have a tool at my disposal. I have the tool of the tarot to navigate those kind of very up here psychological mental states and the very in here emotional crises and situations in which we are trying to navigate. So, you know, if somebody claims to be psychic, if they have that as one of the tools in their arsenal of how to navigate the world around them, then I commend them. That's fantastic. But I personally, I read tarot cards because they are a system through which I can work through all of that psychological bullshit and that emotional, you know, difficulty. So I make no psychic claim in my tarot card reading. I am using a tool. Question 3 is, are my predictions accurate, and is accuracy important to you? I do not make predictions. I don't predict anything. That's actually the answer to question 4. But I am not going for accuracy. I am actually going for, is my reading applicable? So if, I mean, and if it's not applicable, then I guess that's not accurate, so I guess I do worry about accuracy. However, I want to make sure that if I am reading tarot cards, that it applies. I'm not worried about a future prediction. That's never my game. That's never my end game or goal or anything like that. I am trying to navigate the present, and so in that, I'm going to make sure that my reading is applicable to the present. Yes, the present is rooted in perspective and how we view the past and how we view the future, but it's all that we've got right now. And so I want to make sure that if I'm using a tool to navigate the world around me, that it is applicable. So I guess accuracy is important, but it's not accuracy that I'm worried about, it's applicability. As I stated, question 4 is kind of already answered. Is there anything you can't predict? I can't predict anything. That's just not what I'm going for. However, in the colloquial sense of the term, is there anything that I can't be applicable about? I don't know. Yeah, I've already answered this question. There's a lot of things I can't predict. I can't predict anything. Question 5, am I multidisciplinary or am I strictly a tarot reader? I'm a tarot reader. My mystical therapy is not intersectional. I do not incorporate the zodiac. I guess you could say I use numerology, but not really. That's part of the way that I've come to learn to read cards. I value the significance of numbers and patterns, but in terms of any other sort of magical system of divinatory relation, I don't bring anything else in. It's strictly tarot. Question 6 is the message in the cards or in your head? This is one of my favorite questions. So it is a dialogue between mind and cards. The cards are symbols, they're archetypes, they are communally agreed upon images that we have all decided to represent X. Tarot cards, they have a meaning, they have a message, they are a symbol. This is how language works. We all understand and agree upon the symbol. The way that we intuit, react, interpret the card is where the true magic happens. So it is the human function to create meaning out of chaos, to establish and find pattern, and it is through this dialogue of symbol and interpretation or meaning maker, it's the channel, it's the dialogue between the two. Without the tarot cards, it's just me telling you what I think, which is very presumptuous and pontificating and just not anything that I would want to listen to, so I know nobody else would want to either. Without that human interpretation, the cards are nothing but cardstock. That is all they are. They're paper and ink, and there's nothing, in my book, I'm sorry, but there's nothing innately spiritual or magical about tarot cards without that human element. It's the catalyst of their magic. It's the catalyst of the spirituality. What is spirituality without a human to participate? So the message is in that space between the two. The message is interdisciplinary. It is between querent and reader. It is between reader and card. It is between mind and image and symbol. I could go on, I really could, but the true message is in between space. That's where all spooky, interesting, fun, spiritual, take you to God energy comes from. It's in the in-between place. So yeah, I guess that's my reply to question 6. Am I a priest or am I a fortune teller? The thing that this question is getting at is, do you use tarot in a spiritual way or do you use it in a purely wham bam, thank you ma'am, wash your hands, go home kind of way? Like, are you a card slinger or are you having a spiritual moment? Are you not only navigating the world but navigating the spiritual ether and cosmos? Apparently that's all over here on the left, whereas materialism is over here on the right. I don't know, but I'm gonna say priest. That is a hugely like broad sweeping statement of ego, but I don't consider myself a priest in anything. I gave up that whenever I left the Mormon church, but I certainly have a spiritual understanding of tarot. So I think that there is something innately tragic about the human predicament of existing. I'm not going to say that all human experience is suffering, but I am going to say that we do have a very large capacity for suffering. And I think that part of that sanguine, that bittersweet human experience is we allow ourselves license to suspend our own disbelief and seek answers through chance, through a deck of cards. I make no claims to be, the oracle of divinity. I don't think that the cards themselves, in and of themselves, are mystically imbued. I think that it is the human experience, the human predicament, that the human nature to assign meaning to things. We are meaning makers and meaning assigners. If you're going the biblical route, we are name givers. And what is a name but identity, and what is identity but meaning? And so in that very human moment of assigning meaning to things, we have assigned meaning to a deck of cards, and we seek guidance through that. And I think that it's not sad, but we don't typically read tarot cards when we're having a really good day. We don't seek guidance when we're on a lucky streak. We roll with it. But when things are down and out, when things are terrible, when things really suck, we can find meaning in anything. We can find guidance in anything. And so I don't want people to find guidance through a fortune teller. I want them to find guidance through a priest. I mean, like, I'm not, that just sounds so icky. I don't like that word. But I think that a priest is a little bit more, they are more invested in the querence question than a fortune teller would. The fortune teller is, I think that there's a line that should be drawn, and if you're not concerned with the querent, then you probably shouldn't be reading the cards for them in the first place. Question 8, are you a fixer or a looker? I guess I'm a fixer. I guess I talked about that in the previous question. I think that it's kind of morally irresponsible to just lay out everything that the cards tell you and not be invested in the person's predicament that you're reading for. I think that we have an obligation as tarot readers to, if you're not genuinely interested, at least pretend to be. If you turn over a card and your reader starts sobbing because suddenly they have been revealed that their dead son wants them to not feel guilty, or like something very like super duper human moment, and you're having this transpersonal experience, if you're going to be so cold as to not offer like, well, here's a way to think about it, or here's a way to feel about it, that's super callous. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're not human. So like, to be purely a looker, to just look at the cards and just read them as they are, that's a very cold place to be. I know that we do have to like protect ourselves emotionally and like put up wards and stuff like that, but really, don't be a looker, be a fixer. Like, that's part and parcel of the job of reading tarot cards. Question 9, do I charge or do I read for free? Right now I read for free. I have been throwing around this idea of charging. One of my biggest hangups is the guru, the person who claims to have spiritual guidance and will charge you. That is one of the major archetypes that I fight. I dislike that. The guru is the Hierophant for me. However, I have started tinkering with the idea that maybe people want to hear what I have to say. Maybe my research is worth cash monies. And I think that maybe, I don't know, I'm thinking about Patreon. I'm thinking about going the Amanda Palmer route and pay what you feel is deserving of my work. More to come about that in future videos. I really hope you stick around and see what I have been putting my efforts towards. But yeah, right now it's free, so if you want to try and cash in on a favor, now is the time to do it, I guess, before I start figuring out how to charge people. But yeah, all things said and done, I am not charging anyone for what boils down to my perspective and interpretation of flipping over some tarot cards. So, and question 10, is there anything I won't predict in a reading? This is such a better question than can't predict, because I can't predict anything. However, things that I will not predict. I will not predict if you should get together with your ex. I won't predict if you should quit your job and go to grad school. I won't predict anything either. However, what I will do is I will read the majority of your questions. I will offer perspective and interpretation, because that's all there is in life. It's just perspective and interpretation. Thank you, hermeneutics. But to actually answer the question, the only thing that I am interested in is the emotional interior landscape of the person that has come to ask me a question. There is always so much more to be learned about what question is being asked than anything the cards could ever say. Anything that I could ever say in response to the question. The question is the true oracle, because it is a person opening themselves up to doubt and to possibility and to chance and to serendipity and to kismet and to all of the other things that you want to talk about. There's so much to be gleaned from what a person is willing to vocalize, to say out loud and say, I am insecure about this. I don't know what to do about X. That is where the answer lies, because that is a person who has decided to open up. And that is how you know how much you will be received, what they want to hear, what they should hear, what they shouldn't hear. There's so much to be learned from the question. So it depends on the question. So once you hear the question, you know this is something that you will answer, or this is something that you can't answer, that you won't answer. Specifically, if you can't answer something, then you shouldn't pretend to answer that question. Like, if you can't, then you won't. It's not you can't, so you make it up. I guess anything is on the table for asking, but once the question is asked, that's when the real judgment call has to happen. And it's like, that question, I am not fit to answer that question, or that person isn't ready to hear an answer to that question. And so, again, like, it's not me telling them my opinion, it's not me telling them what I think, but it's me assessing, are they actually open to receiving a message, or are they just seeking validation for something? So, guys, this has been my very strange and meandering top 10, or the 10 questions that every tarot reader must answer. If this is synchronistic with anything that you like, if this rings a bell for you, or if this is copacetic with your spirituality, find me kindred, then please comment below. I feel kind of like an outsider in the tarot community, not because people are not welcoming, but because I have a very strange relationship with tarot and with myself and all that other fun, transitive, reflexive ideas. But basically, this has been some of my core ideas on tarot. So if you liked it, please leave a comment below. A like is appreciated, a subscription even more so. And as always, merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again.